Challenging, purposeful, rewarding.
I was the only female in my class, so I call them my brothers to this day because they supported me, they helped me. Like, I couldn't do pull-ups. I went to the gym, we worked out together, so it was fun.
We have the unique opportunity as deputies of interacting with people at some of the worst and sometimes most transitional or pivotal moments of their lives.
Come join our team, become a patrol deputy with the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
Good afternoon and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. You know, on this show, it's a part of the Carter Malone Network, we always have interesting people on the show. And this young man, I've had an opportunity to meet and get to know Chief Deputy.
Yes.
Anthony Buckner. Welcome to Dialogue with Deidre.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Look, I think the first time I met you, we were at the Memphis Food Bank.
Yes,
and my grandson, who's in the studio today, was with me, and we were putting together boxes for families around the holidays.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just walked up and introduced myself to you and have gotten to know you and love the work that you're doing in the community. But law enforcement is what you do.
It is.
So how did you get to be the chief deputy of the Shelby County Sheriff's Department? That's the first question I want to ask.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the question, and thank you again for having me. And I'll answer your question in the long form.
Okay.
And so let me first tell you what attracted me to law enforcement. And I have to go back when I had a whole lot of hair, and I was a little bit thinner than I am now. But my interest in law enforcement actually started when I was probably around 11 or 12 years of age.
Really?
And I say law enforcement, but it actually started with wanting to be a first responder. There was something in me at a very young age that where I knew there was someone needed help, I wanted to be the person that came to serve. Now, I didn't know in the beginning whether that was going to be jumping off a fire truck or out of an ambulance. You know, I was kind of going back and forth on what it was going to be, but it was this one particular night that I'll never forget, and I'm many years removed from that, but it was one particular night I was watching this episode of Cops. I was probably staying up later than I should have, but anyway, this one episode, it was a call of domestic violence, and I remember it was a husband or a male and a female, and there was a small child, little girl. And the police respond, and it was an officer who shows up. He's probably, at least on television, he looks to be maybe 6'1", 6'2", probably around 220 pounds. So he was a nice sized man, and he raced inside of the house. He arrests the man, takes him out to his patrol car, put him in the back, and then he goes around to the back side of his patrol car, pops the trunk, goes and get this little girl, escorts her to the back of his patrol vehicle, and he takes out a teddy bear. And he kneels down and delivers this bear to this little girl. And as I was sitting there literally just digesting what I saw on television, the one thing that I took note of is that in one moment, he was Superman.
Right.
But then in another moment, within a matter of minutes, he's Clark Kent or Clint Cart, whichever one Superman is when he's not Superman. But I said, that's the only job that I know of where you can serve both roles. You can be Superman, but then you can also be just the average man. And that's what I witnessed in that moment. And I said, you know what? I'm sold. That's what I want to do. I want to be a police officer. And so I kind of, did what other 12-year-olds did up until around the age of 16, and I became an explorer with the Memphis Police Department.
That's right. Do they still have the Explorer program?
They still have it. It doesn't look the same as it did when I was an explorer, but it was still there. And I had no clue that the Shelby County Sheriff's Office existed, none whatsoever. But while I was serving as an explorer for the Memphis Police Department, someone did mention the sheriff's office had a similar program, an Explorer program. So I was like, okay, let me check this out. And so now I don't know what the age of your listening or viewing audience is, but I had to go to the yellow pages.
Oh my goodness. Do
Not
they
Google.
even still have those? I think they may, but they're like this. They used to be huge.
Yes. So I flipped through the yellow pages to find a phone number for the sheriff's office. As you could tell, I was a pretty determined kid.
Yeah.
And I called and I talked to them about the program, and I came to an interest meeting, and from there I joined the academy and stayed around the sheriff's office. But here's what's important in that time frame. At 16 years old or 17, I became connected with mentors with the sheriff's office, who to this day, many years later, still serve as a mentor to me. They still coach, guide, and lead me in so many areas of their lives. And I heard this famous or legendary football coach say one time, he said, I've been 18 before, you've never been 60, And so the reason they can still mentor me today, because their ages I've never reached, but they've been 45 before.
Exactly.
And so I got hired full-time in 2001 as a Shelby County Sheriff's Deputy. And I can tell you, 22 years later, I'm still super excited to put this uniform on every single morning and go out and serve. I'm still excited. Over these 22 years, I've been so fortunate and so blessed to serve in so many different capacities. At one point, I was even undercover. I know I look square today, but
my goodness,
at one
you have
point
to be
I was
cool to be undercover now.
Look,
I don't even know if you know the lingo when you're
listen,
out in the neighborhood.
Let me tell you what's funny. I don't have any tattoos, and so I was serving in one capacity. I was doing a surveillance, and so there used to be a store around the corner from my house, and I knew they would sell these fake tattoos. So when I had this assignment, so I went to the store and bought these fake tattoos, put them all on my arm, and I was trying to look cool. And I said, "Shoot, I hope it don't rain out here, so
Come on off.
these things will wash off." But I've held every rank from sergeant, lieutenant, captain, chief inspector, assistant chief, and now the chief deputy. And I've been blessed to serve most of those ranks. I've been the youngest person to ever hold those ranks. And I say this, it's not because I'm so great, but it's because of the great people who have mentored me, who've poured into me. And I'm always reminded, I used to hear people say this, and I didn't understand it when they say I stand on the shoulders of giants.
Absolutely.
I didn't understand it until I started standing on the shoulders of giants. And so I don't ever want anybody to look at me and think about, he's this or he's that. No. The people that I know are this and that, and I'm just standing on their shoulders.
Well, I can tell you, you may not know this about me, but I come from a family of law enforcement. My dad was a police officer in Chicago. My baby brother John, was a police officer, and my uncle Colbert he retired as a captain. So, people would always say, well, Deidre, you're really not afraid when, like, I got pulled over a couple of times. I'm like, no, I wasn't speed. I'll argue back. Because I was raised by a cop. You shouldn't argue. Don't do what I did.
Right.
But it was, but growing up in that household, I mean, he was loving at home.
Right.
But when he was out and about, I mean, he had a job to do, and that was to enforce the law. He died, I'm the oldest of 5, he died when I was 12. And so, but it was a car accident. It wasn't, in service or anything. Right. But just, growing up in that family environment where the law is important, I mean, you don't want to break it.
No.
You're afraid to break it because you got to come home and deal with, the dad or the uncle or the brother.
Yes.
And so did you have, you mentioned you had mentors along the way.
Right.
Was there anybody in your family that was in law enforcement?
No family connection at all. I'm telling you, it's literally at a young age, I knew I wanted to serve.
That's amazing.
And I said this a couple of weeks ago, when even today, 22 years later, when things are going wrong, I love being a person that's called.
That's awesome.
And I haven't. And so I don't really feel like this is a job to me. I really don't. I understand the definition of a job, and certainly some people call it that. But I just feel like it's a ministry more than anything, because I get a chance to meet people where they are, sometime on their worst day and sometime on a great day, like today, I'm meeting you or talking with you. And so, I get paid to do this, but I've done it for free.
Well, let me just ask you, because I know it's been some tough times, and I really want to get to the point where we talk about the reason I wanted to ask you about your experience, to kind of tee it up, because I know you're looking for law enforcement officers, for deputies, patrol officers right now. But it's a tough job. You wake up every day, you're happy about going to work, but you
Right.
never know what the day's going to be like.
No, you never know, and certainly it's a dynamic environment. You know,
Yes.
no 5 minutes can look the same. You know, but the thing is, you know, mental health is so important in our profession, and I just did some interviews about 3 weeks ago, and it blew my mind. I think we interviewed 19 candidates, and 17 out of the 19 talked about mental health, and that was unbelievable to me. And so this job can be tough. However, if you have avenues to separate yourself from it, whether it's children or friend groups that are not law enforcement, vacations, or, you know, some other type of extracurricular activity, you know, even on your toughest days, you have an escape. But I think for those who like that, those who don't have an escape from this, you know, from this job, then I think it is tough because you take it home with you and it weighs on you, and you can get into some other areas. But it is probably one of the most rewarding fields or occupations that I think anyone can join in. And here's the thing. I think for all of us, when our day comes and it's time for us to leave this place called Earth,
Right.
and we look back over our lives, I think the question becomes, what did I do in these X number of years that you've been blessed with? You know, how did I help people? How did I serve? What did I, was it all about money? Was it all about likes or clicks? You know, or did I actually meet someone and make their life better? And how many times did I do that?
See, that's the rewarding piece that
That's
I
the
see.
rewarding
It's
piece.
about how do you touch somebody's life, be it when they're in a crisis or not. You know, how do you touch someone's life to make a difference? And that's what they'll remember.
I'll tell you this. I was at Starbucks a few months ago, and there was a young lady who was serving me who was literally almost about to jump out of the window at Starbucks. And she
Somebody
was
was
so
rude?
excited. No, she was so
Oh,
excited to see me.
Okay.
You know, I would be excited to see me. But she was so excited to see me. But she remembered, she was probably mid-20s. But she remembered me when she was from 15 years old. I answered a call to her house, and it was a family dispute, and I counseled her and talked with her, and she was so excited to see me after all of these years. She was about to jump out of the window, and when she was coming out of the window, she said, "You saved my life." And she said, "You probably don't remember me." And I said, "No, I remember you." And so what other job, what other occupation will afford you that opportunity? And for each 8 hours that you work, those opportunities exist.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Even traffic stops.
Really?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I remember, now don't you try this, but I remember pulling a young lady over one day, and she was just crying her heart out. And you know, I'm watching her as I'm sitting in my patrol car. I'm watching her, and she's just, you know, losing it. And when I got up to the car, you know, I said, "Ma'am, I pulled you over for, you know, speeding, whatever." And she said, "I'm having the worst day of my life. I just got fired from my job, and now you're pulling me over," you know. And so I had the opportunity to stand there and just really counsel with her, and I didn't write her a citation. You know.
Good.
I believed her.
Right.
All right? I believed her. But she'll never forget that moment.
Exactly.
And like I said again, you tell me another occupation that can provide this opportunity, and I'd be interested in that too, I guess.
So, Chief Deputy, how do we get young folk interested in law enforcement? You know, when we've seen a lot of the shows like Cops, 48 Hours. This is the first 48. I'll get it wrong. First 48.
Yes.
And very meaningful. You know, my sons told me about First 48, and I started watching it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty amazing. But so many people are afraid of law enforcement. You know, you think about George Floyd, and you think about some of these other activities. How do we get young people to see that there's value in service? Because it really is public service.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things. You know, our good fruit is coming from some type of garden, and we have to go into that garden more as law enforcement. But then also, I think when we go into those schools, and you know, people like me may not be able to reach the high schooler because they look at me, they say, "Oh, he's older." Mm-hmm. But then the young people that we do have working in law enforcement who can identify with that age group, you know, let's get these folks inside of our schools to talk about this particular occupation. I think also, even when we're, you know, talking about this field, let's not, you know, maybe get away from the money side of things.
Yes.
Because again, I didn't join because of the money. Right. I didn't join because of the benefits. I didn't join because of how cool the uniform looked. I joined
Does
because
look pretty cool.
I joined because of the opportunities to serve the community. And so we listen to, we know about issues like George Floyd and Tyree Nichols and things of that nature. And I always try to put this in front of folks: be the change you want to see.
Right.
If you're hearing about these stories and you're watching these stories on the news and it breaks your heart, then the only way we can turn the corner is that we got to have people with your kind of heart to sign up and start serving. And then we can change it, because those issues with George Floyd and Tyree Nichols and some other issues, those are hard issues.
Yes.
There are policies on the books that say you're not supposed to do those things. There are laws on the books that say you can't do those things. That's a hard issue. And so when you have the right heart, hey, this is the right agency to connect with.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great. I wanted to ask that question because right now the Sheriff's Department is looking to try and recruit,
Yes.
deputies.
Yes.
And so what are some of the things that should make them excited about at least applying to go through that process? I know we've had an opportunity, full disclosure, to interview some deputies
Right.
about their experience, and I'm a lot of them were military, former military, and they wanted to do something to give back to the community, so it was public service in that regard. I remember we interviewed one gentleman who had been a banker.
Yes.
And always wanted to be in law enforcement,
Yes.
so he changed careers to be a sheriff's deputy.
Yes. So one of the things that I like about the sheriff's office versus maybe even some local police is that there are a number of jobs within the job. So in my career, I've served as a school resource officer. Mm-hmm. I've been an undercover officer, investigating gangs and narcotics. I've worked in the courtroom. I've been obviously a patrol deputy. I've worked internal affairs. I've been at the training academy, a lot of different jobs. So like the banker you talked about, a former banker that you talked about, we have a division within the sheriff's office that investigate financial crimes. So what better place than to take that person's talent and put him in a good situation where he's investigating bank or financial crimes. So it's not just about patrolling on the streets. It's not just about CSI, trying to lift fingerprints and arrest homicide suspects. But there are so many other jobs that we do within law enforcement that I think almost any occupation, any degree that somebody may have or may not have, we could apply that. Even from marketing, we have a public information division. So if you have a marketing background or a communication background, let us connect you with our public information officer where you can continue to utilize the skills in which you learn through school. We have, I tell you, people with psychology degrees, they do very well in investigations. We have a sex crimes unit. So if you like law and order, SVU, we have an SVU unit where you can get into the psychology of things, when you're investigating some of these cases. So it's not just about patrolling and writing tickets and arresting people or even lifting fingerprints. There is so many different areas of law enforcement that you can, bring your skill set to and make this community better.
So I guess I didn't even think about that aspect of it, because when you think about the sheriff's department, most of the times you think rural, the county.
Right.
Because, in your cities, you have your police department. Right. So you think that they handle a lot of that.
Right.
But the sheriff's department does too.
Oh, we even have a drone unit,
What?
Oh, yes. So for those who like to get on the video games and fly and all that kind of stuff, we have pilots that work for the sheriff's office, and they have been incredibly helpful, especially during our special events. And we've been using them more in our football games or for schools and basketball games. They'll get out there and fly around the schools or the parking lots, patrolling the parking lots by air. Even some of our narcotics investigations, we're flying, several thousand feet in the air,
Wow.
doing surveillance and things of that nature. So there are when I tell you it's vast, the opportunities are extremely vast. So, I think even, and I'm going to use this term, don't switch my legs, but even your nerds,
Right.
there's a place for you at
Wow.
the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
So are there opportunities? I remember way back in the day when I was on the county commission, I would always ask the sheriff at the time, Sheriff Luttrell, why are you not doing more in the city? Because Memphis is the largest municipality
Right.
in the county. And does the sheriff's department at times, are they called in to work in the different municipalities? inside
That's
the county?
That's a great question, and thank God for the platform. So I can kind of unpack that a little bit.
Yes.
So I had an opportunity, the sheriff and I had an opportunity to meet with Mayor Paul Young and Interim Police Chief C.J. Davis and Councilwoman Yolanda Sutton Cooper. And because we have been hearing, from the community at large, that they wanted us to be there more. And so what we have found historically is that the sheriff's office footprint inside the city of Memphis, as it relates to crime, is better served in a more investigatory capacity. So for example, during the month of April, we executed 29 narcotics enforcement actions within the city of Memphis, not unincorporated Shelby County, but literally within the city limits. 29 enforcement actions as it relates to narcotics investigations. So that means we've kicked in 29 doors all over the city of Memphis, getting drugs off the street. And of course, I don't have the stats now of all the stuff that we've seized. Our fugitive unit, don't hold me to these exact numbers, but I think in the month of April, we arrested 154 fugitives. And I believe the numbers like 95 or 96 of those were outside. They were within the city limits of Memphis. So our SROs, we're in probably 20, 25 schools within the city of Memphis.
See, we won't even have that discussion because I remember chastising the sheriff at the time saying, why are you not in the city of Memphis schools?
Right,
and he told me at the time, Chief Deputy, he said, well, the superintendent hadn't invited me in.
Right.
So, I asked the superintendent, and she was, at the time, Superintendent Carol Johnson. She was like, that's not true. He's welcome to come and have officers in our school. So,
right. So
Sheriff Luttrell.
Yeah. So from narcotics investigations, our fugitive division, our school resource officers, we are in the city of Memphis. But we get it. If you don't see that, that white car with the green stripe going down the side, it doesn't appear that we're there. But I promise you, we're there. And
I guess my question is, do you have to be invited? I remember Luttrell would tell me all the time, I'm the sheriff of all of Shelby County. So do you have to be invited into a municipality?
No, we don't have to be invited.
Yeah.
We want to work together.
That's wonderful.
And I'm just going to use a small example to explain. When you hear things like being invited and things, here's what we mean. So every year, obviously, we have some issues on Beale Street. And, we get the question about the sheriff's office coming on Beale Street. And so there are some issues within the city of Memphis that requires a uniform presence. And there are other issues that require maybe an undercover presence or undercover officers. And sometimes it's a mixture of two. And so when you take something like, say, Beale Street, depending on what the event is, you may want to embed officers who are undercover on Beale Street. And so when that happens, we certainly want them to know who our deputies are, because we don't want any kind of mishap to occur. And if Memphis has undercover officers on Beale Street, we want to know who they are, because again, if something happens that's bad, we don't want to have any kind of friendly fire or any kind of issue like that. So we want to make sure that when we are doing those type of operations, that there is communication between two agencies, and it's not we're there and we didn't say anything to anyone and then we have some kind of problem. So, I think when you hear that about being invited in, I think it's more about really making sure that there's a solid line of communication between two agencies that's going to be in a particular place for the same reason.
Okay.
And, so we work through those things pretty easily.
Good.
And then sometimes, we'll sit at the table and Memphis will say, well, I tell you what, we'll take this area and you guys take the outer perimeter, or vice versa. So that's what teamwork is all about. That's what partnerships are all about. So, and
that's what citizens need to hear, because I think sometimes the perception is Sheriff's Department is just county, unincorporated Shelby, not Memphis, Germantown. But you're all over.
I would tell you this, probably 95% of what our narcotics division does is inside the city of Memphis. Very little is happening in unincorporated Shelby County. Okay.
See, that's good to know. And so, as a quick transition, that's the reason you need
more deputies.
More deputies, right?
More deputies.
And what do people need to do? You need more deputies, and then you also need more correction officers too.
I do.
But what do people need to do in order to apply?
So go to the simple website, scsocareers.com, scsocareers with the S.com. And there you can go to the website and you can see both jobs. Actually, I think it's dispatchers, correctional officers, and law enforcement. You can see what it takes to become one in terms of any kind of testing. You can see what the salaries are. We give it to you by the year, by the hour, by the paycheck or bi-weekly. So, there's a lot of information that you can grab from that website. So I would definitely tell anyone, go to scsocareers.com.
Awesome. Any last words you'd like to share with us, Chief Deputy?
No, well, here's the thing. I would love to see more females apply for deputy sheriffs. Obviously, it's a male-dominant field, but I have found an extreme appreciation when we have some of our ladies at the table who can participate in decision-making. And so if there's a lady out there who's wondering, who's questioning if she has what it takes, trust me, I believe you have what it takes. Give it a chance. Apply. We'll work with you, but we need more diversity within our agency as it relates to gender.
I just interviewed someone who I did not know at the time had been a sheriff's deputy, and I think she probably had a rank before she stepped down, Barbara Farmer.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't know you had been with the sheriff's department. She said,
Right.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
And so she talked about how more women should get into law enforcement.
You guys do a very good job at diffusing situations, and so
We try.
Yeah, you do a great job. And so we really want some diversity at the table, and not only having patrol officers, but having our ladies get promoted and be in upper ranks, because decisions are made. The smaller the table gets, the more important the decisions are made. So we want to make sure that at the long tables we have diversity at the table, with medium size and even small tables we have diversity sitting there.
And if I'm not mistaken, in the correction officers, you have a number of women. Is it more women than men?
More women than men. It is.
Isn't that
and
interesting?
they do a great job. I don't know what it is, but you guys are able to diffuse situations very, very easily. Our female correctional officers and our law enforcement female officers have very few issues, believe it or not. But we train them to be able to handle whatever they need to, whatever they come in contact with.
Well, look, right now we only have a few minutes left, so I want to spend this last few minutes just asking you a few questions, and and I'm sure you're going to respond very quickly for me.
Hopefully.
Chief Deputy Anthony Buckner, what is your favorite movie?
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Which one? Is it the old one or the new one or the?
I love the newest one, and I turn my surround sound up as high as it could go. I feel like I'm sitting in the jet, when I'm watching that movie.
Gladiator is mine. I don't know if
Really?
that says something about me. Braveheart, Gladiator, all those types of movies I just love.
Try Top Gun and turn the surround sound all
I'll
the way
do
up.
that.
Particularly
I'll
the
do
bass.
that. So, what's your favorite food?
My favorite, pizza. How can you go wrong with pizza? I love it.
Okay, and then final question. This is pretty deep. I really need to understand. Who's your favorite music artist?
Oh, gosh, that's a tough one. I will probably say Usher because of his vocal talent, his ability to put on a complete show with dance, song. I mean, he's just an absolute fabulous artist.
Chattanooga native.
Yes.
He's from Tennessee. That's all good. Well, Chief Deputy Anthony Buckner, thank you so much for coming on Dialogue with Deidre, and you are welcome to come back anytime.
Oh, thank you so much.
And thank you so much for watching us. We will be back here next Friday. Thank you for watching Dialogue with Deidre on the Carter Malone Network. Have a great day.
Challenging, purposeful, rewarding.
I was the only female in my class, so I call them my brothers to this day because they supported me, they helped me. Like, I couldn't do pull-ups. I went to the gym. We worked out together, so it was fun.
We have the unique opportunity as deputies of interacting with people at some of the worst and sometimes most transitional or pivotal moments of their lives.
Come join our team. Become a patrol deputy with the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.